Yo, what is good, YouTube? Welcome back to another JC2K video. Today we are going to be doing the starting power forwards in the NBA in this 2020-2021 season. Just like we have done the starting point guards, shooting guards, and small forwards. If there are any players who might be missed off this list, I apologize. I did not make this tier list myself, just like the other ones, and there may be a couple players who are missing, a couple of players who currently aren't starters, but have started games prior. And yeah, before we hop into this video, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please make sure to do so. I post NBA 2K21 content several times a week in addition to 1 or 2 regular NBA basketball videos a week. So if you enjoy this type of content, please make sure you hit that subscribe button as we're getting close to that 1,000 subscriber mark, and I'm trying to hit that soon. I would really appreciate it. But yeah, let's hop right into this video. First player on this list is Dimanta Sabonis, and I think he deserves to be in the All-Stars category. Sabonis has been one of the more underrated players in the league. I feel like for the last couple of years now, he has developed a decent three-point shot. He's a solid defender, really good post player, and just smart with the ball. Kind of a point center, point power forward to a certain extent. He plays a lot of center in the Pacers offense, and I think that he's a very good all-around player. Just really solid offensively, great passer, good rebounder, and a decent defender as well, with the ability to knock down an open shot as well. Moving on, we got Pascal Siakam, who I believe also deserves to be in the All-Star category. Wasn't an All-Star this year, but I like Siakam a lot, despite his struggles with hitting game winners that he's been much maligned for, as we know. He does have a tendency to be kind of a little bit of a streaky player. He'll have series games where he'll play really well and play at an elite level. We saw it in the playoffs when the Raptors won the championship a couple years ago. We saw it last year, his ability to play at a really high level, and then this year he's been a bit inconsistent at times, but when he's playing well, he's still an elite level player, best player on the Raptors, and can definitely be an all-star caliber player at this point in his career. Next player on this list, we have Juancho Hernan-Gomez. No disrespect to Juancho, I just don't believe that at this point in his career he deserves to be any higher than trash. He's been in the league for probably about 5 years now. Never done a ton on the Nuggets, never really done much on the Timberwolves either. He started some games this season, but I don't think he's their consistent starting power forward, but I know he has started some games this year, but he doesn't shoot the three great. He's not super efficient. He doesn't play great defense. He doesn't score the ball at a particularly high clip, so I'm not really sure what he gives you on a basketball court on a consistent basis. Next player on this list, we got Jason Tatum, who I'm tempted to put Jason Tatum in elite, but I'm not going to yet because I see 3 other guys on this list at least who I would say definitely deserve to be an elite and are on a separate level from Jason Tatum. So that being said, I will put him in All-Star. He probably is the best player in All-Star, and even though he has struggled recently, Tatum definitely does seem to be, when he's playing well, a guy who can be the best player on a contending team. I don't know if he'll ever win a championship as the best player on his team. That being said, he used to be efficient. Last month or so, he hasn't been super efficient, but going off of what we've seen before that, he's relatively efficient. High volume scorer, scores the ball really well, and he's one of the better. I think he's one of the more underrated defenders in the league. People don't talk about Jason Tatum's defense, especially his help defense, enough, and I just think Jason Tatum's a really solid all-around player. Even though he's struggled as of late, I still think he's a great player. Super smooth, athletic, good scorer, good defender. Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen recently has been playing kind of like an above average player, but the issue with Markkanen has been injuries for most of his career. As of right now, I'm going to put him in average. I may move him up, but I think, I don't know. I'm gonna put him in above average. I know he plays in the Bulls, and the Bulls aren't great, but I do think Lauri Markkanen still has a lot of potential. He can shoot the ball. He's a good athlete. He can attack the rim, handle the ball, play a little bit of defense. I think he's a solid all-around player, and I like Lauri Markkanen a lot. Same thing with Michael Porter Jr., another guy who's inconsistent, has struggled with injuries, but this year he's been healthy, and the more and more he plays, it seems like the better he plays, especially on the offensive end. He's a really good scorer, incredibly efficient on the offensive end as well as the third option for the Nuggets. And he does seem to be developing defensively as well. He has the physical tools to become a good defender, so hopefully he's able to become that good defender as well over time. Rui Hachimura, I'm going to put him in average. He's a really good defensive player. He still needs to develop on the offensive end of the court. That being said, I do definitely think that Rui is a solid all-around player. I don't think he's much higher than average right now, but I think, again, he's only his second year in the league. I think he has a lot of potential to grow and hopefully learn from some of the veterans that he has around him on the Wizards. Darius Bazley, I'm going to put him in below average right now, but he has shown some potential as late. He's a phenomenal athlete. Seems to be finding a three-point shot of sorts. I will admit I haven't watched a ton of Thunder games as of late, at least that Darius Bazley has played in. So for that reason, I would say that I'm probably not the most qualified person to talk about Darius Bazley, but from what I've seen, he seems like a decent NBA player who just needs more time to continue to develop, because he is still, I think he's only like 20 years old. He's very young, and he does show flashes of being able to be a very, very solid above average caliber starting power forward in the league. Marcus Morris is an average power forward in my opinion. I like Marcus Morris. Actually, I don't like Marcus Morris, in all honesty, as a Mavericks fan, because of what happened in the playoffs last year between him and Luka and the Mavericks. But outside of that, I like Marcus Morris as a role player in that he plays solid defense. He's probably an above-average defender. He can knock down the three ball. He can handle the ball a little bit, score in the post, create an open look for him or a teammate occasionally. He's just a solid all-around player and a player that will help your team to win. I think teams need guys like Marcus Morris outside of the antics and the injuries and some of the things that he's done in the past that probably turned me off to him as a person. I do think he's a very solid NBA player overall. Anthony Davis is still an elite power forward. As we know, he's struggled with injuries this year. He hasn't played as well this year as he did last year, especially in the playoffs. And I'm interested to see how AD can perform when he comes back from injury in a couple weeks. The Lakers are going to need him back, with LeBron being out indefinitely. So I'm interested to see how he will perform, probably in a couple weeks at least, as the number one option for the Lakers, and going to need to probably drag them to some wins to keep them hopefully in a solid seed for the playoffs for the Lakers' sake. That being said, obviously Anthony Davis is an elite power forward. He has ball skills unlike those of most any true power forward center in the league. He's athletic, he's fast, he plays great defense, he can shoot the three. I mean, Anthony Davis is an incredible all-around player, an elite post scorer. He's just an elite overall player, and I think he totally deserves his spot as an elite player on this list. The next player on this list is Maurice Harkless, who hasn't played much this year, and when he hasn't made much of an impact. In the last few years, also, I wouldn't say he's made much of an impact, in all honesty, since he was on Portland. So, for that reason, I would put him in trash just for now. Hopefully, at some point in his career, he's able to come back and become an impactful role player again, like he has been at points in his career, but I think at this point, it might be past his prime. And Maurice Harkless may not be much of an impact player anymore. He's not as good defensively, and he does almost nothing for a team on the offensive end. So for that reason, I would say Maurice Harkless probably just deserves to be in trash right now. Aaron Gordon is average, amazing athlete, as we all know. We've all seen the slam dunk contest. He's a decent defender as well. His three-point shot is inconsistent and never has been super efficient, but it's not the worst three-point shot in the league by any means. I think he's an average player who definitely could provide value to a true contender if somebody wanted to trade for him, which there are rumors going around, as there seem to be every year, that there are contenders looking to trade for Aaron Gordon. So we'll see if anything winds up happening with that within the next few days before the trade deadline. Julius Randle is an all-star. This year he was an all-star, and he deserved his all-star spot entirely. In fact, a couple nights ago, he put up like 18 points, 17 assists, and 10 rebounds, something like that. Some sort of ridiculous triple-double with assists. He's basically a point power forward. He runs the Knicks offense a lot of the time, and he's become an amazing three-point shooter as well compared to the way he's been in his previous years of his career. He's been shooting the ball efficiently. He's been playing well. He's athletic. He plays good defense, and he passes phenomenally for a power forward. So I think he totally deserves to be an all-star. PJ Tucker is another guy who's kind of an average power forward. I would put him in average because of how good his defense is. That being said, his offense has never been great, and it seems like it's been lacking a little bit more recently since he lost Harden and Westbrook and guys like that who ball handles, who could create him open shots, especially from that corner, which is where PJ Tucker has been deadly from the three-point line in past years. So for that reason, I think PJ Tucker still deserves to be an average, and I am interested to see what kind of impact he can make on the Milwaukee Bucks once he gets healthy, which is where he's been traded to very recently. Jaren Jackson Jr. deserves to be an above-average player, even though he hasn't played this year. Going off of what we saw last year, he can score the ball, he can shoot the three ball. He's one of the best perimeter defensive big men in the entire league, and that includes some of the smaller bigs on this list, guys like Jason Tatum and Zion and people like that. Jaren just moves his feet so well and is so athletic on the defensive end that I think he's one of the top defenders in the league on the perimeter. Really, big man or guard, he's so exceptional on the defensive end. His size allows him to make up for slight detractions that he may have compared to a guard. So for that reason, I think he totally deserves his spot in above average. Marvin Bagley, I would say, is average. The issue with Bagley is not that he's a bad NBA player. It's more so the fact that he got drafted 1 pick before Luka Doncic. And he hasn't been able to stay healthy throughout his career, which is another issue. I still have faith in Marvin Bagley to a certain extent that he can figure it out and become a above average, potentially even borderline all-star at some point in his career. So for that reason, I still believe he deserves to be an average because he has good touch around the rim. He has some skill. He shows the ability to rebound. Defense isn't really there as of yet, but I'm interested to see how Marvin Bagley's career develops. Rudy Gay deserves to be in. I think he deserves to be below average at this point. Nothing against Rudy Gay. He just doesn't give you a ton on the offensive or defensive end at a consistent rate at this point in his career, and the Spurs have been struggling a little bit as of late as well, and he's really not a gigantic factor for that team. He still plays decent minutes, but he's nowhere near the Rudy Gay that we used to have on the Memphis Grizzlies and the Toronto Raptors half a decade ago. Kevin Love's another guy who's below average at this point in his career. It's unfortunate to see where Kevin Love's career has gone, to be completely honest, because of how good he was at points in his career, especially in Minnesota and even his early years in the Cavs, where he was a double-double machine, rebounding, knocking down threes, able to stretch the floor, move with relatively decent athleticism, and obviously just being an exceptional rebounder, like I just mentioned. At this point, it seems like he's really just playing for a paycheck, which is kind of unfortunate to see how far he's fallen from being a superstar, a true superstar level player for a couple of years at the height of his career. Giannis obviously is elite. I don't really think I need to explain that too much. Maybe the most athletically unstoppable player in the league. I would say he probably is. He's so fast, so big, so long. Exceptional defender, always one of the best defensive players in the league in the running for a defensive player of the year. He's won back-to-back MVPs for a reason. What we really need to see about Giannis to put him in the conversation for best player in the league right now is more playoff success, but when it comes to the regular season and the power forward position specifically, there's no doubt in my mind that Giannis is an elite power forward. Dorian Finney-Smith, I would say, is another average power forward. As a Mavericks fan, my bias tips me to put him in above average, but I really can't put him over some of these guys in average. That being said, he's a great defender. He knocks down the 3-ball catch and shoot very well. He has decent athleticism and is able to attack the rim with pretty good consistency. And I think he's probably the best perimeter defender on a consistent night-to-night basis the Mavericks have. And he does a really good job most nights shutting down the opposing ball handler, opposing leading scoring option, which is really nice to see for the Mavericks to have a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith who's just that perfect glue guy who plays hard and is really talented. John Collins is another above-average player. The above-average power forwards are really, really solid. Collins can stroke the 3. Again, really good athlete. He and Trae Young play well together in the pick and roll, pick and pop. And I like John Collins a lot as a small ball center or at the power forward position. Either one, I do believe that he is effective and will likely have a long career. Zion, I believe, goes in the all-star category. Some people may say I'm overrating him a little bit, but I personally don't really think so because of how good he's been this year and was last year even as well in his rookie season. He's averaging like 24 points a game, shooting like over 60% from the field, which is absolutely absurd. I don't think people realize how good Zion has been just because of the lack of media attention surrounding him recently. That being said, I like Zion a lot. I think he's got an incredibly bright future, obviously. I think there's a very good chance that we will have a perennial all-star and perennial superstar for the next decade or so with Zion if he can just stay healthy. Tobias Harris is an above-average player. He's had a really solid year. He shot the ball more efficiently, especially from the three-point line. He showed an ability to take over games a couple times as a number one scorer, which is something that the 76ers sometimes need, especially with Embiid being hurt and Simmons having a tendency to be a bit tentative on offense at times. So for that reason, I do believe that Tobias Harris does deserve to be an above-average player, and I think he's actually had a really, really good year. I apologize for my hiccups. Blake Griffin, I'm going to put in below average because of how inefficient and lack of defense he's played this year on the Pistons, in addition to not really trying on offense athletically. I think that Blake will come back on the Nets, which he comes back, I believe, tonight. May have already come back. If not, it comes back very soon. And that being said, I personally like Blake. I hope he has success in Brooklyn, but to this point this year and what with his abysmal start to last year and then the injury that he had back then, I don't really feel like I could put him much below average. As of right now, this could obviously change by the end of the season. Bojan Bogdanovic is another guy who I would put in average. I considered putting him below average, as y'all can see there briefly. But he's a really solid offensive player, very consistent, relatively pretty efficient as well. He plays solid defense, better than people would think, what with him being a unathletic looking white dude. But he knocks down the 3-pointer. He can create his own shot occasionally. And I just think he's a really solid role player who's helped the Utah Jazz to be a really solid team as well this year. Draymond Green is another above average player. I think that even though he doesn't produce in the offensive end, even as well as a lot of the guys below him on this list, his defense and his passing more than makes up for it. And I think he has kept the Warriors in games at times this year when Steph isn't on. He may not be an offensive threat. He never really was, and at this point in his career, he definitely isn't. That being said, I still do believe he is definitely an impactful player who is a very beneficial player to have on the court and still deserves to be an average player in the league. Robert Covington and Jay Crowder I'm going to do together because they're similar players. They both are catch and shoot guys, play solid defense. I just think Robert Covington does a better job than Jay Crowder at that. Both guys are solid, having decent years. Covington seems to be playing better as of late. He definitely hit a couple tough shots on my Mavericks a couple nights ago, which was a bit unfortunate. But I think both of those guys are just solid overall players. I believe Covington's a slightly better option personally. Then PJ Washington, yet another average player. I struggle to put any of these average guys in below average, honestly, because I think they're all solid. And PJ Washington can stroke the 3-ball. He's a great athlete. He can rise up and dunk. He seems to be developing a defensive feel for the game to a certain extent anyway, and I think he has a very bright future. And then the last player on this list is KD, who obviously has to go elite. He's, in my opinion, the second best player in the league, the best scorer in the league, and maybe the best scorer of all time. Obviously, I'm a big fan of KD. I always have liked KD, even when he went to Golden State. I still liked him to a certain extent, but I think he has redeemed himself to a certain extent by going to Brooklyn, and I'm here for it. I support his career and hope that to see KD potentially bring home a ring over the next couple of years. But that being said, I don't really think anybody's going to debate that KD, Giannis, and AD deserve to be an elite. So that's going to conclude this tier list. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, please make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers within the next month or so. I would really appreciate it. Yeah, this is my tier list. If y'all thought that anybody I put in any specific area was too high or too low, make sure you let me know down in the comments below, and I'd be happy to debate that with you. But yeah, that being said, I'll be back with another 2K video very, very soon, probably tomorrow, and I appreciate everybody for watching this far. Appreciate y'all. Peace.